Hi, this is Stephen Mead, lifelong entrepreneur, business owner, and global speaker. Over the years, I've read hundreds of books and spent thousands of hours developing what I call the Bullseye Belief System. And I've used that system to develop my own companies, as well as help others learn to be specific, targeted, and focused to get exactly what they want in life. Again, I'm Stephen Mead, and this is the Bullseye Guy Podcast. Stephen Mead again, back with another Bullseye Guy Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about life hacks. What is a life hack? A life hack to me is a technique, a tool, or a tip, something that makes our life easier, something that makes our life better. And I'm going to talk about some simple ones that I have, as well as some that take a little more effort, primarily around some networking events and things like that. But give it a quick little simple example of what I mean by a life hack. I've got my notes here in front of me, and I'm going to cover a few. One is what I call passwords. What are passwords? How many of you have a password on your phone or your computer? I know I do. I have it on all of them. But my password is actually an acronym. Some people might say, what's an acronym? Well, it's basically a bunch of letters that mean something, either scrambled or put together. So I've talked a lot about goal setting. I have a series of goals. And a lot of times you'll hear things like, oh, you should write your goals down every day. You should have a list. You should look at what your goals are. Well, when you write them down, that's great. But if you put them on a Post-it note on your mirror, or you're only looking at them once a day, it's not constantly being reinforced. And the goal is, how do we constantly reinforce our goals to program our brain to think about them? Simple life hack for me. All of my passwords are acronyms of what my goals are. So every time I'm entering my password in my phone, every time I'm entering my password into my computer, it's actually making me think about what my goals are. So as I'm typing that, I'm now preconditioned where I don't have to do it as much, but every time I was typing my password in, I would constantly be reinforcing those goals. I could see them in front of me. I could see them on my mirror. I could see them on the 3x5 card, but it wasn't a once a day exercise. It became 100 times a day. And again, just a little life hack. It just reinforces your goals for simple ways to do things. So there's one. Another one I like, life hack. I don't like working out. I've admitted that. I don't like the gym. I actually got in trouble. I played sports growing up, soccer, track, volleyball, played soccer in college. We had to go to the gym. We had to work out. We had to do weights, and I hated it. I still hate it. But I like working out, but I'm not going to do it every day. So what did I come up with? I made this joke years ago that if I wanted to change the curve for healthcare, I could do it. I would create something called a PUPS. PUPS stands for push-ups and sit-ups. And the goal became, and I've tried to do this, I'm still not as good at it, but my little life hack is, if you did push-ups and sit-ups every day for how old you are, if you're 8, you do 8. If you're 80, if you did 80 push-ups and sit-ups a day, you could actually life hack your health. You'd become more healthy. You would increase your core. Just something simple. You don't have to go to the gym. You don't need to work out. It doesn't cost you anything other than the commitment of doing it every day. And I've tried to do it. I'm not even the best at it, but if I do, I try to do push-ups and sit-ups every day. Just again, simple little life hack. More healthy, something simple and easy to do. See, I'm starting to mark these off of a list. What else have I got here? Oh, I'm going to jump up. Networking. I'm going to make my way up at the top and then come back down, because I spend a lot of time in networking, and these are some big hacks around networking. And networking to me are a lot of events, right? And we spend a ton of money. If you're going to spend thousands or tens of thousands or 20s of thousands of dollars to go to an event, a networking event, you want to make it worthwhile. You want to make it beneficial. Well, how do you hack an event? I've learned this through the years. Again, I've got my notes, even though most of it's memorized. A couple good things. If you're doing, again, this is all entrepreneurial. It's not going to make sense to everybody, but if you're doing business or corporate events or networking, these things will make sense. If I'm going to an event, one of the things I always do is I email people and I've got lists set up. I've got these what are called contact management systems with different lists. But I'll email people, say, hey, I'm going to such and such event. And I'm fortunate I get to do these amazing events around the world. Hey, I'm going to Davos in Switzerland. Or I'm going to the Formula One event in Monaco with Nicholas Frankel and the My Yacht Group. Who's going to be there? And I'll actually email, but what I'll do a lot of times is I'll make a link to the speakers and the panelists. I'm basically sending a notice out saying, one, I'm going to be at this event. Are you going to be there? Two, do you know anybody that's going to be there or is in the city that I'm going to? But most importantly, here's a link of the speakers and panelists. If you happen to know any of the speakers or panelists, I would love to meet them. And what it's enabled me to do is before I go to a city, a lot of times I'll get introductions. And I'm not just getting introductions to people who, A, may be in the city, which are great. B, people that may be attending the event, which is good. But over and above that, people that are actually on stage. The speakers, the panelists, those are the people that I'm always interested in meeting because they're the ones who are in a room and have credibility. So how do you craft this? You want to craft an email that's basically saying you're going to be at this event, you're asking for help. If you have introductions, you'd love to meet people, and you can hack the event in advance by leveraging your network. And that's a great way to get introductions. If you get the introductions before you're going to the event, you have more confidence, you have more credibility, you have more contacts when you go in. So email in advance, always like that one, link to the speakers. Second hack I've learned as well, get there early. A lot of times if you get there early, there's speakers, there's panelists, there's people walking around at the event, the people who are setting the event up. A lot of times you want to get there early, not only for registration, but if you get in early while people are setting up, you get to meet the event organizer. You get to meet the people who are putting these events on that by the time the event starts, they're too busy. So getting there early is something that allows you to make these relationships in a way that other people don't. Most people show up late or show up on time. Show up early. But if you show up early, this is, again, I have to be cautious on time because I'm flying through these. We may have to come up with some more as we go through, but I like to do a lot of research before I go to an event. Right? So again, I'm trying to give you tips. If you know you're going to be in an event, pull up the speakers, pull up the panelists, have a game plan, who you're going to meet with. Who do you want to get introduced to? Who are you trying to meet? Look at their pictures because you may see guys walking just down the hallway. And that may be the person that you want to meet, but if you haven't done your research, you're not going to do it. So a lot of times I'll have a game plan. I've got my event out. Are we okay? I see Eagle over here kind of waving. You know, I love the engineers here. You guys can't see this. We've got studio engineers over here. We've got Swedish Eagle over here. We've got a wall full of great stuff. Anybody ever wants to come to the Groove Radio stations in LA, you guys should certainly try and do it. But doing the research and understanding people and seeing the pictures makes a big, big difference. And why does that make a difference? I'm going to share a little story with you. Again, because I think I'm a big proponent on research and doing things in advance, but even I make mistakes. And again, one of my sayings, I think I've said it on an earlier podcast, experience is the best teacher. It's also the slowest. The more you can do to learn from other people, whether it's a podcast like this or a book or a video, experience is a great teacher, but it's also the slowest. I'm going to share with you a big, big mistake I made. And some of these stories are not to impress you, just to impress upon you the fortunate things I get to do in the rooms I'm in. But this was many years ago, many being 6, 7, 8, 10. I don't look backwards, but I had hired a great guy to help me set up some introductions around an event and a company we were starting that was in the water conservation space. It was a spinoff of the Pet Rock. For those of you old enough to remember the Pet Rock, not everybody does. It was a box of rock and a brochure, and we developed a way to save water as a water conservation product. So we were trying to figure out how to kind of get into this world of entrepreneurism, but also social impact long before social started. And the guy that I hired was setting up meetings, and one of the events was coming up in New York. And part of my goal in hiring him was I had to be in that event. And the event was run by a guy who's now become a friend of mine named Scott Elkins out of New York. Scott's raised money for the opera in New York and things like that. But Scott had organized an event in the home of Julian Robertson, who's Tiger Hedge Fund. It's a $10 billion fund. Julian's a legend in the financial services industry. And I said, not only do I want to be in this room in this event, but I need the list of participants before I go. And the gentleman I hired is like, oh, I don't know if I can get you in the event. I can't. Then I'm not hiring you. He said, okay, let me figure it out. He got me in the event, and he got me the list of participants in advance. And I'm making the point here. There were 81 or 82 people in this event total. I'm going to give you some of the names. Let's see if you recognize any of the people that were in this particular room. I have pictures with some of them. Fascinating. Bill Clinton, Tony Blair, Lawrence Summers from Harvard University, Federal Reserve, movie Facebook, Chris Hughes, co-founder of Facebook, Wendy Dang from Fox, Jamie Dimon from Chase, 4 of the 6 Walton families, Edward Cottagen, whose family started Chelsea. Imagine being a family who started, Chelsea is a town in England from like the 1500s. Like, this was an amazing, amazing, amazing room of people. And I did my research. I did my research in advance. I figured out the people who I wanted to meet. I had notes on them. What was Julian's favorite wine? What was this person's charity? And one of the things I learned before I tell you what my mistake was, I'm going to go down and mark this off of my list here. There we go. Here is one of my great life hacks as I weave into the story. I said this one might be a little bit meandering, but you guys will follow me. I've learned this. Before I meet somebody important, I don't just Google them. A lot of people may. If you do this, not everybody will even Google somebody you're going to meet, but if you Google somebody, you can, and a bunch of random stuff pops up. I don't do that. Again, if you've listened to my podcast before, I think episode 3 talked about what's in it for you, what's in it for me. What's in it for the other person? What's of value? So here's my life hack. Before I meet somebody important, I Google what's important to, and I put that person's name in. If I was going to meet Oprah, Ryan Seacrest, Swedish Eagle, I could put anybody. I Google what's important to and that person's name. What comes up is interesting. If these people are relatively famous or important or have been around in business, there's going to be press releases. There's going to be interviews. What's important to that person? It may be their charity. It may be their family. It may be something that motivates them, maybe a business goal. But by learning what's important to the other person, it opens up a path of conversation that's important to them. And so I had Googled what's important to Julian Robertson, what's important to Wendy Dang, what's important to Edward. And I had my game plan. I had the people that I wanted to meet, what I was going to talk to them about, 80 people on the list. And I'm in the room. The elevator doors open, beautiful penthouse overlooking Central Park, New York. And I'm greeted by Scott, which was great. And I turn and I look in the room, and there's about 30 people there. I recognize Bill Clinton. I recognize Tony Blair. I recognize Lawrence Summers. I didn't recognize anybody else. What was my mistake? I didn't look at their pictures. This is not a name tag room. It's not a room where you walk up, hi, my name's Sandy Wild. I run Citigroup. No, this was a room of people that I'm in there going, I don't know who anybody is. So I did my research. What's important to? I had my game plan. Had no idea what these people look like. When you do your research, look at the pictures. You might be able to recognize somebody walking down the street. You might be able to recognize them in a room. Do your research. All right, life hack. Do it in advance. So a couple other things on the networking, then I'm going to go to my fun ones. Get there early. If you're there early, ask the host for help. A lot of times if you're in an event and you don't know who's there, it's the host's job to be a host. But the host can't help you if you can't help them to help you to help them help you. And again, a lot of my blogs are going to be circular, concentric circles. They're going to overlap. One of my techniques in a prior broadcast talked about a tornado technique. It's how do I say, here's what I do. Here's the emotional value of what I do. Here's the kind of companies. Here's the kind of people I want to meet. Who should I meet? You have to make it easy for the host to introduce you. So have a 10, 15-second story that says, hey, here's what's cool. Here's the companies. Here's who I'm trying to meet. If you've actually done your research, you may know the 4 or 5 people and say, oh, thank you so much. I'd love to meet this person and this person. Can you help me? The job of the host is to introduce you. If you're there early and admit the host, it's going to be even easier as you go through the event. So get there early. Learn to make good introductions. The introductions is a fun part. And by introductions, I mean, again, if I can ask somebody what they do and what they're looking for, I love being at an event where I'm meeting people early. I know what they do. And I'm able to grab them and say, oh, Swedish, oh, Eagle, you need to meet this guy. This guy started, Hank. Can't remember Hank's name. Hank, I just went blank. Oh, he's doing a bunch with EDM. He helped with NWA, all of these early guys. Hank, I'd have to look it up. My phone's there. Anyway, if there was somebody else in there that I knew was a DJ or in music or came out of something, I'd bring them over and say, here's this person and here's what I make introductions early on because it builds referral currency where then those people in the event want to help me. So I'm trying to leverage an event to become more effective when I'm there. If all else fails, I did this. The first time I learned this was I was at an event in Barcelona called the Mobile World Congress. Any of you that have been know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, basically the MWC has 60,000 people walking around. I don't know who they are. It's kind of like CES in America in Vegas. There's 125, 130,000 people. When you're walking through 50, 60,000 people, how do you pick who to talk to? Right now we're developing, I'm finally going to develop an app called CUC Me so we can do these networking things where if I'm walking down the street and somebody's there, we have something in common, it'll ping me because I hate being at an event where I don't know who anybody is. I don't want to read name tags. So here was my strategy. Mobile World Congress, I figured this one out. I looked for people who had badges that said speaker. So as I'm walking around in Barcelona, guys are walking by and I'm like, nope. Oh, guy's got a speaker badge on. Let me talk to him because at least as a speaker, I know he's probably important. May or may not have something relevant, but that to me at least took the random arbitration out of just picking people walking down the street or in a room. Who are you? What do you do? So a lot of times when I'm at an event, I will look for the speakers or the sponsors by their name tag or their badge if I'm going to pick somebody to randomly talk to. I don't like being random, but if I have to be, that's a good one. Again, these are all just basically for networking. Here's my favorite one. And this one's creepy. If it's not done right, it's creepy. Even if it's done right, it's still creepy, but it is super, super effective. If you've ever been to an event, I've been to hundreds, and you look and there's the 5 people on the panel and the one person you want to talk to. And when the panel is over, what happens? The panelists usually, not always, sometimes they run out the back door, but a lot of times they'll walk to the front of the stage or off to the side and they stand around and talk to people. And what do we do if we want to talk to them? We dutifully walk up and we trudge and we stand in line and we wait for our opportunity to talk to the speaker. Wrong answer. I'm not going to stand there for 10 minutes looking at the back of somebody's head. Notice I'm politically correct because I saw the Socialist Comrade event the other day and you can't say person. So I don't want to say in the back of some guy's head or girl. Somebody, but he's general. I like taking shots at people, but I don't want to stand there and look at the back of some person's head for 10 or 15 minutes. So what I do is the following. I walk up to the stage, I walk up to the speaker, and I walk right up beside the speaker and I stand right next to the speaker. And it's weird. They'll look at you. They'll do a double take. Like, what's this creepy dude doing standing next to me? And the people in line all think you're trying to cut the line. So people are like, oh, no, I stand there and I listen. And it's fascinating. I learned so much. So here's the hack of what you do when you stand next to a speaker. It's fascinating. Number one, everybody that's lined up is pitching that speaker, right? They're not there to learn about the speaker. They're all there to sell something to that person, which is probably why you want to talk. So when I stand next to the speaker, I learn a bunch of things. One, as an entrepreneur and a CEO, I learn how to answer questions. I'm always fascinated. These people have to be politically correct. They have to deflect. They have to defer. They have to act interested when they're not in a bad way, but you have people pitching you a lot of stupid stuff, and every now and then some of it makes sense. I want to learn how to answer when I have to stand in line and people are waiting. That's not the real reason. The second reason, still not the real, I'll get to the third. Second reason is now there are 15, 20, 30, 40 people that are selling their product or service to the speaker. What am I doing while I'm standing there? I'm listening to what every one of those people are talking about. I'm listening to what they're selling, and I'm making mental notes. I get to hear 15 or 20 or 30 pitches to decide who I may want to talk to after I wait my turn for the speaker. I want to be more effective. I don't want to be bouncing around a room with 200 or 300 or 1,000 people. I want to hear what the people are pitching the speaker who I also have an interest in. Somebody I want to talk to. Is it competitive, collaborative? Is it something of interest? I just collapsed my time frames and heard 30 people make their pitch to the speaker. But I also learn what's interesting to the speaker. I learn what's interesting to the speaker. I learn who their staff are. I learn who, what, when, where they direct things off. And I'm going to give you a quick little example of that. This one was fun. Many years ago, many years ago, I don't think backwards, 7, 8. It was when I was doing this, I was still learning a lot of this, and I was doing it around the Water Conservation Project. And I got fortunate. I was invited to an event at CAA, Creative Artists Associates, and Robert Kennedy, I think it was Robert Kennedy Jr., great guy. He's the guy that kind of talks like he's crying. If you've seen him, he's got some commercials out now. And he was standing in line, and there were a bunch of people pitching him on water conservation and this. And Lisa was there with the Plastic Pollution Coalition. It was fascinating. She was talking about how plastic's bad and evil and you should ban straws, which, by the way, she did get banned in California. It took her many years. And then Robert Kennedy was like, oh, you can't really ban all plastic, and here's why. And the dynamics were fascinating, but I stood there for probably 20 minutes and listened to 5, 6, 8, 10, 15, 20 people. And when I got my chance to talk, there was probably 2 people left, and I turned to Mr. Kennedy and I said, by the way, thank you so much for letting me stand here. I've learned a lot. I always like to be gracious. But what I had learned is he had 3 different people on his staff that he directed to based on what the project was. And his biggest project he was interested in was River Keepers, which was what we were doing around water conservation. And the person he directed it to, I don't remember his name, but basically the 4 or 5 or 6 times he said, oh, this is who you should talk to. So I turned to him and I was like, thank you so much. It's been great. And by the way, you mentioned earlier about River Keepers, and again, let's make it up, James. River Keepers, and James is the person that handles that project for you. I have something I think would really help you save water and your foundation would be interested in. Is there a way I can get in touch with him? That was it. It was 15, 20 seconds. I knew what he was interested in by listening. I knew who he's going to direct. I didn't even talk about what I was doing because he didn't need to know. He was just going to direct me anyway. So standing by the speaker, and he turned, he said something fascinating. He goes, do you have a pen? Well, yes, sir, I do. I had a pen. He goes, okay, do you have something to write on? Do you have a business card? I'm like, yeah. He goes, okay, give me one. Gave it to him. He said, give me another one. I said, no problem. Gave it to him. He writes on the back of the business card. He said, here's my personal cell phone number. Call me if you have any problems, but James is over there in the corner. Good luck. Didn't even tell him what I did. I watched people for 45 minutes sell him, but I stood there and listened. The aspect of standing by a speaker, if you do it right, is really, really, really fascinating and powerful, and you get to learn all kinds of things. So those are some of my networking techniques. There's other ways to hack things, but again, the conferences to me are really important because we spend a lot of money. We spend thousands of dollars, and we're trying to get there and make things effective. And that's it. couple other little life hacks. We use something called Hootsuite. I ask people all the time, oh, you familiar with Hootsuite? Do you know what Hootsuite is? And they don't. They kind of look at me. We've got this plethora of social media tools. We have a plethora of social media sites. We've got Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn and a WordPress and a blog and all of these things. And it's time consuming and difficult to post all over. Hootsuite is a tool that I call a one-to-many. All right. And Ryan Holmes and the group out of Canada have done an amazing job. It allows you, it's a little box, and you type in the box and then it pushes to multiple locations. So if you're trying to publish a lot of content, whether it's a picture, whether it's a posting, rather than having to go to Facebook and Twitter and post all over, this tool allows you to basically, it's not a true hack, it's a tool. And the one we're using now is called Sendable, which gives you a lot more places to go. So Sendable is a cool little hack. I was just with a friend of mine the other day, and it's like, oh, we're going to hire somebody, and we're going to hire somebody to post at Instagram, and we're going to post on Twitter, and we're going to do all these things that take so much time. I said, why? Open up Sendable, write it once, and it publishes to many. So saves you a bunch of time. Hootsuite or Sendable is a good one. I also use a fun tool called Grammarly. Grammarly's interesting. I'm a pretty good speller. I'm not perfect, but I also type really quickly. Grammarly, Grammerly, exactly as it sounds. It's a cool little tool that when you download it, it runs in the background. So as you're typing, it just starts underlining what you've misspelled. So it just is a little sort of ongoing spell checker. It allows me to type faster without having to go back and constantly reconnect and what's the word I'm looking for? Correct. Yeah, I don't have to go constantly recorrect. I can type stream of consciousness and thought. It'll underline everything, and then I can just go back, click, 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 and it gives me the correct spelling, and it gives me options and things like that. Again, I'm trying to find ways to be more efficient as we move things up. So those are some. What else do I have on here? Oh, take good notes when you meet people. A CRM. I use a CRM. CRM stands for contact relationship management, a CRM tool. You'll hear people. Salesforce is a big one. Salesforce is cool. It's expensive, cumbersome, clunky. A CRM for me, I use one called ACT, A-C-T. Some people give me a hard time. It's a bit dated, but I've used it since 97 or 98. I have close to almost 20,000 contacts of people that I've met personally. And when I meet somebody, this is a Covey principle, sharpen the saw. It takes a little bit of time. When I meet somebody with the business cards, I write on the back notes. So when I'm done at that conference, I can remember, and I enter them into my CRM. And my contact management system has a field called User 4. And my User 4 field is where I take notes. What was this person wearing? Where were we sitting? What did we talk about when we met? And I have another field called Referred By. So I can go into my notes and I can pull up somebody from 2003 and go, oh, this person referred me to you. We met on this day. You were wearing this at this table. This is what we talked about. So I keep detailed notes because not only do we remember things visually, it helps me sort of have a better connection and understanding, not only of who, where, when I met somebody, but also who possibly referred me to them so I can go back and give that person credit or track through. The new tool I really want to try, I've met the CEO. He's here not in San Francisco, in Santa Monica in LA. It's called Nimble. Nimble is a great CRM tool. I haven't fully experienced it yet, but that one's pretty fun. I'm looking at my notes here as we're getting close. I think that's it. I've probably got some other ones that are always fun and interesting. But again, everything with me is about trying to be hyper efficient. How can we be better as an entrepreneur? How can we be better as a business owner? How can we make our time more efficient and effective to help other people be successful? And if we have good notes, if we have good relationships, if we have good tools, it enables us to do a lot of things that we couldn't otherwise do on our own. All right. And speaking of tools, speaking of making things better, big shout out again. I always like thanking the guys here, downtown Los Angeles, Groove Radio. The studios are awesome. These guys are amazing. They also have their own, the Groove Radio, the Groove Station. They've got an app as well. We need to have you guys download the app. But for me, wrapping up, this is Steve Amin. So again, thank you for joining another Bullseye Guy podcast. I'm your host, Swedish Eagle and the crew here. Big shout out to them and a thank you to the Groove Studio. For more information, you can find me at thebullseyeguy.com. Again, Steve and Mead, I hope you like the episode. Please subscribe. We're up on iTunes now. We're up on YouTube with the videos. And appreciate all your feedback. Follow us. Again, Steve and Mead, thank you so much.